Realme is one of the youngest and fastest growing smartphone brands right now. Founded in 2018 as a subsidiary of Oppo, this brand gained a lot of popularity thanks to its wide selection of good phones in affordable price segment. In fact, last year they surpassed Samsung as the second largest smartphone vendor in India. Their journey began on 4th May of 2018 when they launched their first Realme phone. For 9,000 Indian rupees, it offered a 6-inch display, MediaTek Helio P60 chipset paired with 3 to 6 GB of RAM, 32 to 128 GB of storage, 30 megapixel rear plus 5 megapixel front camera, and 3410 mAh battery. On the software side, it shipped with Oppo's ColorOS 6 on top of Android 8. At its launch, it sold out within 2 minutes. Overall, they sold 400,000 units within 40 days. The reason behind their success breaks down to its beautiful design and a good chipset for its price, because at the time, phones used to look very dull, especially at this budget segment. So Realme was the first brand to introduce the beautiful flashy design in budget phone and paved the way for the future budget phones design. With this success, they launched the Realme 2 series after 4 months. This time we got two phones, the 2 and the 2 Pro. At the same price of last gen, Realme 2 got a slightly bigger display with notch, upgraded to Snapdragon 450 and a bigger battery of 4230 mAh. It also got the fingerprint scanner, which was missing from the last gen. On the contrary, Realme 2 Pro was targeted a little bit on the mid-range segment. It featured Snapdragon 660 with up to 8GB of RAM, 128GB of internal storage, and 60 megapixel dual camera. Like the previous gen, Realme 2 was also a hit and sold 2 million units within 4 months. Next year, Realme diverged even more with the launch of Realme 3 series. This time, they launched 3 phones, the 3, 3i and the 3 Pro. The 3 is very similar to the last gen aside from the addition of Helio P70 chipset and a second rear camera. Same goes for the Pro. Aside from the upgraded Snapdragon 710 and 25 megapixel front camera, everything was identical. The price of Realme 3 increased, so as a result, the 3i was released to fill up that gap. Upon its release, the Realme 3 sold 210,000 units and the 3 Pro sold 170,000 units in a day. Moving forward, Realme launched the 5 series instead of 4 as 4 is considered unlucky in China for some reasons. So with the launch of 5 series, they introduced quad camera to every phone and 48 megapixel camera to some phone. We also got a new phone, the 5S, which sits between the 5 and the 5 Pro. The 5 was powered by the Snapdragon 710 and was configurable up to 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. The specs of the other 3 were very identical, including the Snapdragon 665 and 5000 mAh battery. According to Realme, 5.5 million Realme 5 phones were sold in 2019. Then came 2020, and we all know what it was. On the flip side, Realme also introduced some good stuffs to their Realme 6 series phones, notably the 90Hz high refresh rate display, 30W fast charging, and also shipped with their own Realme UI instead of Oppo's ColorOS. 6 Pro was the first phone of this series to receive a glass back and the only phone to get a Snapdragon chipset. The camera setup was also upgraded to 64 megapixel. Dual camera was also exclusive to the Pro. Otherwise, rest of the phone of this series were powered by MediaTek chipsets, with rest of the specs being pretty usual. Like other Realme series phones, it was also a hit, but I couldn't find the sales figures for some reasons. In 2020, 5G wasn't as common as it is right now. The 5G capable phones were mostly expensive flagship smartphones. So with the launch of Realme 7 series, Realme introduced 5G in this mid-range segment despite of its limited availability. Not only that, 120Hz refresh display was also added for the first time in this series. By the way, this series included 4 phones: the 7, 7 Pro, 7i and 7 5G. Despite of getting an AMOLED display and Snapdragon 720G, Realme 7 Pro was kinda disappointing due to not having high refresh display, which were becoming common back then. Actually, at the time, there was a trend of having either 60Hz AMOLED display or high refresh LCD display in these mid-range phones. But at least they gave 65W fast charging capability on this phone. According to Realme, they sold 1.6 million units of 7 series phones combined in 30 days. With this success, we got the Realme 8 series consisting of 5 phones. Among them, 8, 8 Pro and 8i were 4G capable and 8 5G, 8s 5G were 5G capable. This year, they introduced 108 megapixel camera with Pro only, with addition to a bright yellow color. But I think the silver color of the regular 8 looks more stunning, except for that huge Dare to Live tagline. Other than that, the phones had usual specs like mid-range MediaTek chipsets, up to 8GB of RAM and 5000 mAh huge battery. But the thing which was missing was 5G. This is where the 8 and 8s 5G came. Both of them were very similar except for the Dimensity 700 and 810 chipsets and their megapixel differences in camera setup. Moreover, they were 5G only by the name, cause they had only 2 5G bands, which wasn't ideal for future-proofing. I had a hard time finding its sales figure. Eventually, I found one in Philippines where they sold 26k units of 8 and 8 Pro in a day. Moving on to 2022, Realme obviously launched the 9 series, and I hate this series. Because why the heck they need to release literally 8 phones in this series? They should have released one more phone to literally complete their 9 threshold. Not only that, they have 3 phones of the same name. I mean, why on earth they couldn't have come up with different names instead of keeping the names of 3 phones the Realme 5G, which is really dumb as all other phones of this series were in fact 5G capable. The only interesting phone in this series is the Realme 5G. The speed indicated the 144Hz refresh display and the almost top of the line Snapdragon 778 chipset. Another thing which was first was the addition of Pro Plus phone in this series, which was just a beefed up version of the Pro. Still no AMOLED high refresh display. But Pro Plus bought OIS in this segment for the first time. Other than that, the phones were pretty usual, having Snapdragon 600 series or Dimensity chipsets. By then, Realme became the fastest brand to reach 40 million shipments. So at November of last year, Realme launched 5 phones in the 10 series: the 10, 10 Pro, 10 Pro Plus, 10s and 10 5G. For some reason, most of the phones of this series have dual cameras instead of 3 or 4 cameras like their predecessor. On top of that, the 10 5G for some reasons returned the teardrop notch. The Realme 10 Pro Plus ditched the OIS in favor of curved display, which is the first in this segment. Personally, I feel like curved display isn't that useful than OIS. Additionally, we get a new 12GB RAM option and a 256GB storage option. Other than that, pretty usual stuffs like Dimensity chipset, 108 megapixel camera, 5000 mAh battery, etc. In China, 2 million Realme 10 Pro series phones were sold. So yeah, this was the Realme series. There are some things common in all the phones of this series. One of them is their beautiful design and their vibrant color options. Every year they launch different kinds of vibrant color options, which I personally am a huge fan of. Another noticeable thing is the increase of their price year by year. It was later covered by the launch of the C series phones. Within these 5 years, Their exponential growth is unbelievable. Even many established brands couldn't make it in this competitive market. This was actually possible thanks to the expertise and heavy marketing strategy of Oppo. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today. If you have ever used any Realme phone, let me know. Thanks for watching. Like and share this video and also subscribe the channel. Until next time, bye.